So I started getting these because, yeah, it saves me money, saves me time, and you can see how many crevices we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one generally doesn't sit in the tea, but I'll count it because sometimes it bubbles up, so 6. Where the other one had like 30, maybe 40 crevices to clean. So super easy.
Where did you say you got that?
Technically, you can get from T-Lab. We do sell them too, but I'm not going to be a salesman here. But these are my favorite because of that. All right. So I got extra power just in case, but we don't need it. So we're close by. We should be able to reach. Say the power source went out. Well, if your air pump is lower than your water, what could end up happening is the water will transfer through the tube down and into your air pump and destroy it. So having it above makes sure that that gravity doesn't, you know, if there was an emergency electrical issue occurring, it's not going to destroy it. This is the most expensive component. This is super cheap. This is like, these are getting more and more expensive. These are definitely at least $100 something.
And the purpose of the cardboard behind it, is there a purpose for that?
Good question. So normally when I have this set up, it's hanging in an area where it's free floating, and that eliminates a lot of vibration. So when you have this sitting on a table, it's just like, and you have to brew for 24, 48 hours. It's hard to sleep when you just hear that annoying vibration all night long. So I let it free float. So at home, it'll just be hanging around like this, but there's nothing that I see that we can hang from that's gonna let it free float. So, and if it's hitting this metal, it's gonna rattle. So it's just kind of like a little sound buffer I put in. Especially it'll help so I don't have to yell over it. Okay, so next, before I put this together all the way, I actually like to just screw this together here. I'll let you do it, Mod. At least, I mean, sometimes it'll just tilt and fall out. So you don't want that. You want your oxygen to be released as low as possible, preferably right there at the bottom. What's happened in certain farms is they actually don't install their air mechanism low enough, and they'll have like a 1-2 foot plus like gap that's not getting oxygenated, and then they are like, someone calls them out and they're like, hey man, your food has E. coli in it. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, you have all this organic stuff, like I'm not, you know, but they didn't realize that, I mean, anaerobic environments can produce E. coli. So to create a fully aerobic system, you want to make sure you're oxygenating from as low as possible all the way up. Don't create big old air gaps. Oh, look at it, we got a power guy.
Where's Jackie?
That's cool. Okay, so actually before we make a tea though, let's just make some extracts together. So I'm gonna take this out temporarily.
Get it back on?
Go for it, yeah.
Water's going back on. Don't spray dry.
Wait, what are you doing?
We're just gonna fill this up to about like right about here.
Oh. Hi, bro. Is it good?
It's that's what
Let me know.
Later, man.
Go.
We're gonna
go.
turn it on. Alright, cool. Okay, sorry. I'm like focusing over here. I'm like, I know she's got me in like in her target range. All right. So basically, so what happens is with the stone, they work great for a little while, but your multiplying organisms, they're sticky, right? They create these biofilms.
Yep.
Those biofilms get into the air stone.
Yep.
They create these little sealed off pockets. Becomes anaerobic in those little areas, and then all of a sudden, you can use, but they have potential contamination issues with, like, they're organic, but like they'll add like a lot of salts or this to that to your soil. And I've never had an issue with just using water, but the thing is though, once I finish my brew, I don't let it sit and dry. So when it's moist, it's super easy to clean.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it rinses right off. But if you let it sit, you're pretty much screwed.
It'll take on.
Yeah, and so that's like pretty much a rule I have. I always tell people, I'm like, look, if you're gonna make a tea, make sure tomorrow you have nothing scheduled or you have at least a good open block, no matter what, that you have time. Because don't try to fit it in like, oh, last minute I'm gonna do this tea and tomorrow I have 10 million things to do and I'm gonna try to clean it amongst those 10 million things. Don't do that. Just find an opportune moment where you're gonna feel comfortable the next. And so another thing is, I say the next day right now. This is all This is dependent on environment. So in the summer in the Central Valley, it gets really warm. You can brew a tea in as fast as 18 hours. So yeah, it'll be fully finished 18 hours. Now in the winter, it can take it can take up to 48 hours. So like the temperature correlates to how fast they're gonna multiply. So when it's really warm, they're active and they're multiplying faster. When it's cooler, they're multiplying slower. So that's pretty much kind of dictates how long I'm gonna brew my tea for. Question?
How do you determine how long you need to brew it based on the temperature? Do you have a way of measuring to see when the population's ready or not?
Yeah, so you could look under the microscope if you want. So what Janelle might be doing, oh yeah, she's doing tomorrow. I'm sorry, I thought she was doing it today. I'm getting confused. What she's doing tomorrow with the microscopy stuff, you can use a very basic microscope to start doing some assessments, and you don't have to get like super complex where you're like counting the organisms in this and that, but you're just looking for changes. You're like, oh, I have this much, it looks like, you know, a decent amount of bacteria, and then tomorrow it looks like significantly more. And different foods, like we talked about in my presentation yesterday, are going to correlate to different growths. So like fish hydrolysate, for instance, you're going to see more fungal growth, but they take longer to grow. So if your goal is to grow fungi in compost tea, you might need to let it sit for 3 days because they take longer, even if it is warm. Bacteria, they multiply super fast, so that's where the 18 to 24 to 48 hours kind of comes in. If you're really focusing on fungi though, I don't focus on multiplying the fungi as much. I definitely think it's a crucial component to put the foods in there. My thing is, make sure you have the fungi in the compost and multiply as much organisms that you can in here, but usually a lot of the predators and a lot of the other more complex organisms, they won't even multiply in that time period, but they'll hang out in it. The bacteria are creating a sticky fluid as they're multiplying, so then you're adhering this complete ecosystem. Yeah, maybe your fungi and your predators didn't multiply as much as as best as possible, but at least you've now made them sticky, so that when you spray them onto your leaves, the leaves themselves are sweating. They're exuding. They're creating exudates. So they're releasing carbohydrates and proteins and sugars and things. So you then put them out onto your plant surfaces, and then all of a sudden those fungi and all those predators, they have the opportunities. Maybe the predators aren't eating those food surface or foods that are being excreted, but they're eating the organisms that are eating that material, right? So you're allowing that ecosystem to kind of take place where it normally would take place. In a little bit, we're almost getting there water level wise. So once we get about here,
a little above that line.
Yeah, especially because people are going to be splashing the water around a little bit.
Okay.
To experiment with what I had available was I had fruit juices. I had oranges, I had like peaches, I had all the stuff. So when it was in season, I would use that as a sugar and potentially, I know Lloyd, oh, he's right there. You were talking about pH, alkalinity, right? One thing I've done is I've used like fruit and I squeeze them, and they have sugar content, but they also have an acid content to them. So that could adjust your pH a little bit, but also it acts like a bacterial food. So you can use, and also like you said, they're healthy, right? So they might have some beneficial organisms on them, so you can use them as a form of inoculum, and if you squeeze the sap out of it, or maybe throw it in a blender or a food processor so you have a lot of surface area, then it can also become...
I have a juicer. I'm gonna juice it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what other people have it, I don't know. But
yeah. So that is an opportunity.
So one problem I have in the farm right here, when we go, we see it. What happened was we ordered a compost from Hasty.
Okay.
And they told us later on that, hey, for your knowledge, actually the compost we sell to you is alkaline, high pH. I say, okay, I'm not seeing any problem, but I do see problem right now. Wherever I use more of the compost in half of the bed, the growth is not there. So I need to fix this.
Yeah.
So application of that will fix my pH level, bring it up.
Well, so it's acidic or it's alkaline? You said it's alkaline, right? So you want to bring it down then?
Yes, I need to.
Yeah, so I mean, you can use acids, but this technically, if you added fruit juices to this, it might be a little bit acidic, and yeah, you could do that. But again, I really focus on the biology, especially because that's a lot of material you're probably applying. So the wood chips, focusing on fungal foods too. So when you're brewing, if you have an alkalinity issue out there in your soil, using things that are going to grow fungi, fish hydrolysite, kelp, different like the seed coats and the carbon-rich materials. Those are going to be great fungal foods. Those are going to encourage fungi, which they create natural humic, fulvic acids. So they're going to acidify the material. So biology is always the key. There are super scientists. I'm not out here trying to directly change the acidity and the alkalinity all the time. I just let let nature go to work and provide the opportunity for the right organisms to do the right job, essentially. Was that?
Heck yeah. A fun fact, biologically speaking, is that like a byproduct of plant growth is low pH exudates out of the roots. So like as plants grow longer and longer in the soil, they actually acidify it.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Okay, I'll wait a couple of years.
time-
Keep on planting.
Over time, it'll come down.
Keep on planting. Okay, so we've got a big barrel of some water here. Again, filtered water. Let's start out with making some extracts. Who wants to first come up and make some extracts in front of everybody? Here we go. Okay, there we go.
We need to speed up.
Yeah, and again, we're gonna be less sciencey about this, but again, it's okay. All right, that's probably good.
Probably good.
Yep. So I'm gonna show you.
It is good.
Show you how I do it.
Like that was like not much.
400.
That bucket wasn't full.
Yeah. So.
This is worm castings, you said? Or what is it?
Yes, it's supposed to be worm castings. So if you pick it up like this, that's what a leachate is. So if you heard Courtney earlier talking about leachates coming out of that material, it's water that passively comes out of the bottom, right? So I'm not doing anything physically. You can see some slum color coming out of it. It's not the like darkest brown color, but there is some color. So there's a little bit of that ulmanic acid, a little bit of fulvic acid. So, and that acid that's coming out, that is able to remediate toxicity. It binds to things, right? So that's a leachate. Now, we're gonna do an extract. So I'm gonna forcefully remove the organisms from the material into the bag or into the water without, and then I'm gonna pass it off to Terry. But I'm just gonna show you a quick example. But basically, again, vitamin L. We're not gonna grab and squeeze the organisms and just crush and destroy. What I like to do is I pinch the bag.
They are not dead.
As if you're caring for your little child.
I pinch the bag, so I'll pinch it like so, and then I'm forcefully moving the bag back and forth. That's why I put the water level kind of low, because I knew I was gonna get splashing a bit. And you can see the water color's changing more. We're getting more solubles out, but we're also ripping the organisms off because they glue themselves. Again, they have these bio-sticky fluids, and they're stuck to that worm compost. How we doing? This takes about 30 seconds to a minute for a hand-based extraction to occur. This? Yep.
What is that, Mom?
Compost extract.